a very special guest, Neal Katyal, who wrote the special counsel rules at the DOJ, is former Acting Solicitor General, and has many other legal accolades. Good evening.
Good evening.
As you may have heard, there are legal scholars running for president these days, and that makes for interesting ideas. Check out what Senator Elizabeth Warren pushed just last night.
Well, my view is that every vote matters. We can have national voting, and that means get rid of the Electoral College and every vote.
Can we get rid of the Electoral College? Should we?
So, I had the office next to Elizabeth Warren when I taught at Harvard Law School, and she's a very smart person, and I think on this she's right. So the Electoral College, I think there's two problems with it. One is its sordid history. Its roots are literally the roots of slavery. That's where the Electoral College arose from back in 1787 as part of the Great Compromise and other things, and it's really was designed at its founding to be about protecting slavery. So that's one problem, is the sordid roots. And the second is where we are today as a country. Where we are today as a country, Ari, is not thinking about ourselves as Coloradians or Marylanders or whatever, but as United States citizens first and foremost. And the Electoral College is, I think, something that unfortunately splinters the country apart. It gives lots of weight to a few states, not as much to others. And it's a system that I think its time has come and passed, and it's time to get it reformed.
So you're basically drawing out the history that it was to perpetuate white power and a structure based on slavery. It also seems fairly bonkers for a democracy, a self-proclaimed world leader on democracy, to have this system that seems to routinely result in the runner-up becoming president, right?
Not routinely. It's still a rare thing, but yes, it obviously happened with President Trump, who likes to pretend that he has some sort of popular mandate.
Professor, I'll take your correction. You're right. I overspoke. Not routinely, but of the last four presidents, two of them at one point were elected this way.
Yeah, so it's a real, I think the recent history points to a real damaging thing about the Electoral College, which is it really does have impact. It's one thing if it just seemed like this quirky thing from back in 1787 that doesn't matter to us today, but as the recent election shows, it matters hugely. I mean, President Trump lost the popular vote, and now he's careening around pretending that he somehow won it.
What does it mean that we see these reports initially that Rod Rosenstein was going to stay on the job until Mueller finished? Now he's staying on the job, but we don't know if there's a link.
Yeah, I mean, we keep on hearing predictions of Rod Rosenstein's demise. He's going to leave. He's going to resign. When the wiretap stuff came out about him possibly taping the president, he was going to resign the next day. This is kind of like the Mueller report. I mean, we're told that's going to happen the next day, the next week or so on, and it doesn't happen. So, it just underscores the basic, truth which I live by, which is, don't predict the future.
You're saying this is the HR version? This is the HR version of Mueller report speculation?
Exactly.
I know that you were waiting to come on, and so we had a lengthy back and forth that I know you saw some of with former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District, Preet Bharara. I'm just curious if anything that he said jumped out at you.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that jumped out at me was that he had thought about recording a conversation with the President of the United States, and he was saying so had Rod Rosenstein. And that's pretty remarkable because, I've had a bunch of different jobs at the Justice Department. I have to say it'd be unthinkable to record my superior. Just like, you couldn't tell me something that I would believe less than that. And I know Rod and I know Preet, and I suspect they have the exact same bones in their body about this. So the idea that these two men, and you just heard Preet break this on your show for the first time to my knowledge, that Preet said, I'm worried enough about this that I have to possibly record the president. That just tells you all you need to know about the president of the United States.
It is remarkable. And you mentioned I hadn't heard him lay it out with this detail and getting Rosenstein involved. He alluded to it, I think, on his podcast when he had initially spoken about leaving. The book, which I just finished, really doesn't deal with this section. So as he's now talking to folks, we're getting more details. He also sort of said he thinks Rod walked back off something that he actually was serious about.
Yeah, so I mean, all of this I think is fodder for further discussion, but I think tonight's news that you broke is really significant because it's just another window into what is Donald Trump really like behind closed doors.
Right, and what moved people to this degree. Neal Katyal, thank you as always. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.